Lightbulb moment number 30 is about big new ideas that I think are coming. This is not a comprehensive list, and I confess I sort of made this list up myself. But I do think there are a number of big things that could be coming along that we should be listening to. And I don't know what the next, people are always asking what's going to be the next best thing. I always say it's get the donor experience right, so it's an easy cop-out. But I think there are huge opportunities coming along with things like virtual reality. Virtual reality on the streets could save face-to-face fundraising. I think still digital online is where the action is going to be, the capacity for, and the ease by which people can give to get that answer to share of wallet and combating donor fatigue, making it so easy for people to donate, but then matching it with all the other things that we can do online because we can communicate instantly and very cheaply with people online. I mentioned corporate mutual partnerships, corporate social engagement. I think that's a massive opportunity. Putting donors in control is a massive opportunity. The whole organization approach to fundraising, again, that's been stressed on several projects. So a few of these things I have mentioned and talked about quite a lot, but focusing on meaning and fulfillment to retain donors, I think has really huge potential. And also we now are, in the UK at least, we are faced with a new regulatory regime and there's not much we can do about it. I don't think that's going to change. But I do think that most donors would say it's a good thing. And so we should get behind it and we should make the best of it. And in some ways, I actually support the new regulation that's coming. I do believe that donors should be protected from some of the worst excesses of any business sector. I talk about learning to make rice. Learning to make rice is it's the thing about sushi chefs. You know, if you are a sushi chef in Japan, you have to spend 2 years just making rice, and that's the only thing you do. Until you can make grain-perfect rice every single time, you are not allowed to progress on to the rest of your art and craft until you have perfected the art of making rice. Now, it's just about the business of embedding the fundamentals in our young new recruits and making sure that they are grain perfect. You know, a black belt in judo doesn't master 14,000 different moves. He or she will just master 14 moves, but they will master them 1,000 times until they're absolutely perfect at them. And that's how they get their qualification. And we have no such requirement of people coming into our profession. You can come into a fundraising and you can be put in charge of activities with no experience or knowledge whatsoever. And I think that has to change. Learn to be much better at listening, and I've talked about uniting with one voice. Make that new promise. So, Murray, do you want to get all of that? Okay, I mean, some of this I have repeated. I'm sorry I get boring after a while. Okay. So this, I think, is one of the great big new things that could be around. This is Rachel Hutchinson from Blackboard in America, and she says people bring their whole selves to work, who they are and what they stand for. Employees should seek to empower their people as agents of good. And I'm thinking back to the lone fundraiser in his box within a box within a box, who's thinking, am I changing the world yet? This is actually one of our great strengths as a voluntary sector, is that you can make a difference, you can change the world. We've heard stories from you this afternoon that show individual instances of how you've changed the world. This is another person who I find is very worth listening to. So, in storytelling, I'd say with increasing affluence comes a decreasing sense of fulfillment. the richer that people get, the more likely you're to find them queuing at the psychiatrist's door. You know, contentment doesn't grow with riches. When we cease to need to worry about basic survival, other issues of purpose and fulfillment crowd in upon us. In order to spread happiness and contentment for all, fundraisers could position themselves as providers of fulfillment for busy people. Telling our stories about the propositions and products and opportunities through our organizations where they can make a real difference in their society and the wider world for themselves. And I don't think we've made anything like as much use of that potential as we could have done. So I advocate that we position ourselves as adding meaning and purpose to people in their lives, particularly in this increasingly dehumanizing society where there's, you know, ever more unreliable. I mean, you probably don't have the same problem with politicians that we have, but, you know, I sometimes think our Boris Johnson is going to make Donald Trump seem like quite a good president. No, it is possible that you can stand up in front of the people and reiterate a known lie and nobody will say anything, and you're the foreign secretary of the country. It's extraordinary. I'll have to probably edit that out of the film. But it's true. Nobody denies it. There's been a lot of articles, particularly coming from the States, about generosity. Giving is good for you. Giving actually is healthy. Greenpeace, when we were doing some work with Greenpeace, we found that that people who leave a legacy to charity tend to live on average 2 years longer than people who don't. So, unbeknown to us, Greenpeace ran a campaign. I think it was in Switzerland or Austria or somewhere like that. And they ran the campaign which said, you know, leave a legacy to Greenpeace and live longer. And that it was challenged, and I think probably rightly so. But there is evidence that giving is good for you, and people enjoy giving. And, you know, we just don't make enough of that. We tend to be much more interrupting and apologetic about how we do things. Giving and unselfishness have a lower risk of early death. You'll enjoy more years of life. Your marriage will be stronger. You know, generosity is one of the key factors in a happy marriage. Mental health is enhanced by giving. You know, she seems to know what she's talking about. But there's much more that we could make of these things. And it's quite serious. In the UK, we are now no longer one of the top 10 most generous nations. We've become nasty and mean and introverted. We have.